What's up everyone, welcome to the M&M Fan Appreciation 400 Top 5 DFS Picks video for Sunday, July 24th at the Tricky Triangle, Pocono Raceway. As always, I'm your host, Chris Pennell. You can find me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16, and this video is presented by Prizepicks. In today's video, we are going over general track strategy, how to approach the slate from a DFS perspective, and my top 5 favorite plays on the slate. Please keep in mind this video is being recorded pre-practice and qualifying, so some of my thoughts and opinions on these drivers will and can end up changing. So making sure you're staying up to date on what happens on the track on Saturday and Sunday will be very beneficial to you in creating fantasy NASCAR lineups this weekend. And if you want the up-to-date info analysis, you can find me and Jason on the Stokastic Live Before Lock show. We'll break down the entire slate and answer any questions you may end up having. And as far as how we should approach this slate from a DFS perspective, Pocono is kind of an odd track because there's not many comparables to it. Really, the only other comparable we had to it back in the day, Indy, that is no longer in the Cup Series, so we haven't ran there in a couple of seasons, and we're not going to this year as well. It's a 2.5 mile track, and it's also a triangle. That's why it's called the Tricky Triangle. We only have 3 turns here, although some people like to argue 5. But it's hard to find any comparables here, so the best thing we can do, I think, at this point is look at how we ran at some of the intermediates, because that's where we're getting some of the higher speeds here. And obviously Pocono, you need high horsepower, high speed. So the drivers that have been able to do that at somewhat similar tracks this year, like the intermediates like Auto Club, Charlotte, Kansas, and Las Vegas, some of those drivers that were fast at those tracks should at least bring some speed heading into this weekend. And as far as roster construction is concerned, we only have 160 laps this weekend, which is just about half from what we saw at New Hampshire last week. So dominator points not quite as abundant. You don't want to completely ignore them if you can nail the main lap leader, and if there's a secondary dom, you want both of those guys in your lineup. But for the most part, I am mainly focused on finishing position this weekend. Yes, place differential is there, but I do think a lot of times that can be a bit overhyped. So I'm mainly looking at drivers that potentially lapse or finish quite highly for me. So getting into the picks, we will start with number 5. And at number 5, we have Bubba Wallace, $7,500 on DraftKings, and also $7,500 over on FanDuel. And you're going to see a common theme in this week's video, but I love Toyota heading into the weekend. Obviously practice can change things, but like I said, we need high horsepower, high speeds at Pocono, and I currently think JGR and all the Toyotas, which 23XI is basically a JGR team, is going to bring a ton of speed. They've had a lot of speed so far this year. I think they're the best cars right now, so if that's my assumption, I have to assume that they're going to be the best cars here this weekend at Pocono. So Bubba Wallace here, while he's kind of the forgotten about Toyota, he has had some upsides so far this year and had a great race last weekend in New Hampshire. I think that's very comparable, but was able to bring home a top 5 last season at Pocono. Obviously different equipment these days, but it's also better equipment. That is something to keep in mind. Did have a 10th place finish at Kansas. But other than that, the intermediates haven't been that strong for Bubba, but Toyota's definitely gotten a lot better as the season progressed. And we haven't been to an intermediate or a higher speed track in quite some time. It's been a lot of road courses and a lot of short tracks, and we've also been in Atlanta. So it's been a while since we've been in a track like this, because Charlotte was all the way back in May. So that is also something to keep in mind here. But I like Toyota this weekend, and Bubba Wallace is currently the cheapest of the bunch. And if he can just show me a little bit of speed in practice and potentially qualify well, I think he'll be a decent tournament play no matter where he ends up starting. And moving on to number 4, we are looking at Bubba Wallace's teammate from 23XI Racing, Kurt Busch, $8,500 on DK, $9,000 over on FanDuel. Doesn't exactly have the best track history at Pocono in recent years, but like I've said multiple times this year, I am not that concerned about track history. Like, it's there, it's nice if someone's good at a track, but it's definitely not going to be really a deciding factor for me too many times. But Kurt Busch, I mean, I like Toyota this weekend, so it's hard for me not to like one that's decently priced in the mid 8K range. And Kurt Busch has already dominated Kansas this year. Another, I don't want to call it a similar track, but it's one of the tracks at least I am looking at to compare some numbers at so far this year. He's overall had some pretty strong speeds as well. And like I said, Toyota has definitely progressively gotten better as the season has gone on. So I like this price for Kurt Busch. I think no matter where he starts, he's going to be a viable DFS play, whether it's in the top 5 or top 20. It's just going to be a sway on his ownership no matter where he starts. But I'm kind of hoping he starts closer to the front so we can get some lower ownership on Kurt Busch, and he can be a very strong play that has top 5 potential this weekend. And moving on to number 3, we have another Toyota here, this time from JGR. We have Christopher Bell, $8,900 on DraftKings, $9,500 over on FantasyLabs. Not a big sample size of races from him at Pocono in the Cup Series, but does have a top 5 to show for it. But he's also been very strong at similar tracks so far this year. And by similar tracks, I do mean some of the intermediates because, like I said, not too many comparable tracks to Pocono. But 5th at Charlotte, 5th at Kansas, 10th at Las Vegas. Had an issue out of club early in the season where he finished 36th. But if you exclude that, he has been very strong at them so far this year. He's actually been able to get up front, dominate, get fast laps, and overall be very solid. So you are getting the cheapest JGR driver here, below 9K. Very easy fit on both sites as a mid-tier play. I like Christopher Bell anyway here on tournaments or cash games, no matter where he starts. So going to be a big fan of him heading to this weekend. Also has some nice momentum coming off the win from last week. And moving on to number 2, once again another JGR Toyota here, but it's Denny Hamlin, $10,400 on DraftKings, $12,500 over on FanDuel, so a bit easier to fit him in over there. But he's got time for the second best odds over in Vegas to win this race with Chase Elliott, only behind his teammate Kyle Busch. But if you look at the Pocono numbers the past few seasons, hard to find a better driver, although we might talk about one here next. But no one's averaging more DraftKings points per race the past couple of seasons at Pocono than Denny Hamlin. No one has a better average finish, better running position, better drive rating, time for the most wins, time for the most top 5s, and also second in dominator points. And if you're looking at some of his recent finishes at similar tracks this year, 1st at Charlotte, 4th at Kansas, had issues at Vegas and Auto Club where he just didn't run that well, but overall, Hamlin's had a very fast car this year, and like I said earlier, JGR has gotten progressively better as the season has gone on, and Denny Hamlin's kind of gotten rid of that bad luck that he had earlier in the season. So I love Denny Hamlin this weekend. Not my favorite play, but he's pretty close to it and definitely a favorite to win this race. And before we get into our next pick, I want to talk about our sponsor, Prizepicks. They offer daily prop-based contests, and you can use promo code AWESEMO for a $100 first match deposit bonus. There's no sharks, optimizers, or mass entries. 5-player lineups can add to 10 times your entry fee. Use your knowledge of multiple sports with cross-sport entries. You can download in the App Store, on Google Play, or play over on prizepicks.com. And you can use our free player prop tools to help you make the best selections. And the best thing about it is you can get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit over at Prizepicks, or receive your email within 24 to 48 hours after to redeem your free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. And finally, my number 1 play for the M&M Fan Appreciation 400 at Pocono Raceway. It's no other than the Candy Man himself, Kyle Busch, $10,600 over on DraftKings, $14,000 over on FanDuel, the most expensive driver on both sites, but deservedly so. He is excellent at Pocono. He's got the best odds to win this race over in Vegas, and once again, another JGR Toyota here, but he is basically 1st or 2nd in all categories at Pocono with Denny Hamlin, so it's hard to argue against these two here. But the 2nd most DraftKings points, the 2nd best average finish, 2nd best running position, time for the most wins, but 2 here the past few seasons. Also time for the most top 5s, top 10s with his teammate Denny Hamlin. But he's been excellent at similar tracks this year. 2nd at Charlotte, 3rd at Kansas, 4th at Las Vegas. Didn't run that well at Auto Club, finishing 14th, but 3rd in DraftKings points per race at these tracks. Also has the 2nd best average finish, only behind Kyle Larson, tied for the most top 5s, and a good chunk of dominator points as well. And it's been hard to really find a better driver than Kyle Busch this year overall, just looking at consistency. So I love Kyle Busch this weekend. I don't think that price is too hard to get to over on DraftKings. Obviously on FanDuel, you are paying a bit of a premium there at $14,000, but I do think he is worth it. I think he can win this race, and I think he can be up front for the majority of the time, assuming he does qualify well. And also, it's a narrative. I mean, we have the M&M Fan Appreciation 400 for the driver of the M&M car. And a lot of times, narratives do hit in NASCAR, so that is something to keep in mind. But overall, you can't really argue against the numbers for Kyle Busch heading into Pocono. So just to recap, at number 5, we have Bubba Wallace. Number 4, Kurt Busch. Number 3, Christopher Bell. Number 2, Denny Hamlin. And number 1, Kyle Busch. And for me personally, I am just looking at all the Toyotas for the most part. Obviously, things can change after practice, but as of right now, I do think they should be the top dogs heading into this weekend. And if you did end up enjoying today's video, make sure to leave a like down below, subscribe if you're new, and hit that bell so you get notified whenever I post new content, which is all the time on this channel. And leave a comment down below if you want to agree or disagree with anything I had to say, or you can tell us your favorite 5 plays on the slate heading into this weekend. And you can follow us on Sunday for the Live Before Lock show, where me and Jason will break down the entire slate, answer any questions you may end up having post-practice and qualifying. With that being said, I wish you all the best of luck, and I'm excited to take on the Tricky Triangle this weekend, even if it's not the most exciting track in the world.